Would one align with time as we presently experience it psychologically, while the other would somehow be different? As in, would this be sort of a psychological time, and that's different from this other extra time? It gets even stranger when you think about a curled up time dimension. For instance, if a tiny ant walks around an extra space dimension that is curled up like a circle, it will find itself returning to the same position over and over again as it traverses complete circuits. This holds little mystery as we are familiar with the ability to return, should we so choose, to the same location in space as often as we like. But if a curled up dimension is a time dimension, traversing it means returning after a temporal lapse to a prior instant in time, going back to the past, sort of like Back to the Future. This, which is a science fiction movie, I believe. I haven't seen any of them fully, but I am aware of them. So just like Stephen here writes science fiction, you know, these are sort of in line with what we may imagine fictionally, but it's a little strange to think about returning to a previous time. So this, of course, is well beyond the realm of our experience. So this is, we don't experience, we generally don't go back to the past, and we don't go to the future and then come back and all of that stuff, right? So time as we know it is a dimension we can traverse in only one direction with absolute inevitability, never being able to return to an instant after it has passed. Of course, it might be that curled up time dimensions have different properties from the familiar vast time dimension that we imagine reaching back to the creation of the universe and forward to the present moment. But in contrast to extraspatial dimensions, new and previously unknown time dimensions would clearly require an even more monumental restructuring of our intuition. Some theorists have been exploring the possibility of incorporating extra time dimensions into string theory, but as yet the situation is inconclusive. In our discussion of string theory, we will stick to the more conventional approach in which all of the curled up dimensions are space dimensions. Thank God. I mean, as if the extra space dimensions were not difficult enough, right? But the intriguing possibility of new time dimensions could well play a role in future developments. Hello, Courtney. Hi. Hello, my dear. How are you doing? Hi, Stephen. Hi, Alfredo. Hello, Courtney. Thank you, Stephen, for answering some of the questions. Love it. Appreciate you. So, so keep in mind that we haven't seen too many conclusions about string theory yet. String theory is still considered to be sort of not refined enough where we would conclusively say a lot of things. We have learned certain things that we now know certain things about what we don't know, which is that we don't really have an intuitive answer for why there are exactly 9 spatial dimensions demanded by string theory, and out of which 3 are the extended XYZ dimensions that we all experience, and 6 are the extra small curled up dimensions that are required by the theory but are impossible to probe in real life with experiments as of till date. So we don't exactly know why 9. There is no intuitive answer to why 9, but there are mathematical reasons for why there are 9. We also see that there might be an evolution or a more evolved string theory that actually requires 10 space dimensions and 1 time dimension, making it a total of 11-dimensional string theory. And we will get to that later on. Already, we're dealing with a lot of dimensions here, just with the 10 space time, with the 9 space plus 1 time. And even though we're lacking in the intuition here, because at least we experience a plural of space dimensions, we experience plurality in space dimensions, one could see that maybe one could maybe stretch their imaginations, even though it's not our normal experience, but one could stretch their imaginations to maybe see that